Welcome to The Explainer. All right, if you're a writer, I'm sure you know this feeling. You've written a scene, but something's off. It just doesn't feel real. Well, today we're going to look at a super common mistake that might be the culprit, and, more importantly, the one simple physical step you can take that could honestly change everything for your writing.
Okay, so let's dive right in with this quote. This really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The big takeaway is that some details, you just can't invent them. You have to experience them. It's about feeling a certain temperature, like it says here, that you literally can't feel just by thinking about it.
So Section 1, Writing with Imagination Alone. And this is a huge one, subtitled, The Common Trap for Aspiring Writers. And believe me, it is common. The writer we're following here spent 4 whole years, from 2007 all the way to 2010, just making this one critical mistake over and over again.
So what was the mistake? It was creating scene locations based only on what was in his head. Just pulling from memory or, frankly, just making it all up. And the result? Well, the spaces he created felt thin, flimsy, kind of like a movie set, right? It looks good from the front, but there's nothing behind it. The whole thing was just totally disconnected from reality.
Okay, which brings us to the problem of weightless scenes and why these imagined spaces so often fall flat. The thing is, the consequence of writing this way wasn't just that the settings felt a little fake, it created scenes that were missing what the author calls weight. They just felt floaty, ungrounded, like they could just drift right off the page.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly, right? The difference between scenes from imagination versus scenes from reality. On the one hand, imagination gives you stuff that's artificial, disconnected, weightless. But reality, that's where you get authenticity. That's where your scenes feel grounded, where they have that weight. And a whole screenplay built out of those light, weightless scenes, well, in the writer's own words, it was pretty much doomed from the start.
All right, next up, an accidental discovery. This is the turning point in the writer's journey. And the best part is, this breakthrough didn't come from some fancy writing class or a textbook. Nope, it happened completely by chance, right when he was in the middle of writing his very first feature-length script. So get this, he just happened to be passing by a real-life place that was almost identical to a location in his script. He was just, walking down the street, and bam, there it was, a building that looked exactly like a key spot he'd been trying to write about. And in that one moment, it all just clicked. He could finally feel that weight of the location, that real, tangible thing that had been totally missing from his writing. And this quote really drives it home. The smell and atmosphere the space exuded was in a realm that is difficult to imagine unless the writer visits the space themselves. And that's the key, right? It wasn't just about what the place looked like. It was about the smell, the atmosphere, the whole vibe. All the stuff that is just so hard, maybe even impossible to invent accurately when you're just sitting at your desk. So that brings us to the power of place, gathering information beyond imagination. After this one accidental discovery, everything changed. It was so profound that he adopted a totally new, absolutely essential step in his writing process. So what did he learn? Well, he realized that actually going to a location gives you 2 huge advantages. First, you get to really grasp the space's unique features. And second, you begin to understand how a character would actually move inside it. You start thinking about the little things, like how they'd have to squeeze past a table or where the light comes from at a certain time of day. It's that kind of detail. So why does all this matter for your script? Well, it's pretty simple. It adds a layer of authenticity and realism you just can't fake. You get real sensory details, smells, temperatures, sounds. It actually changes what your characters might do or say. It's basically the cure for those weightless scenes we talked about. It grounds your story in a reality that your audience can actually feel. And that's really the big lesson here. To give your scenes weight, you have to step out of your head and into the world. The writer's journey from struggling to confident wasn't about some complicated new writing theory. No, it was just about closing that gap between imagination and the real, physical world around us. So we'll leave you with this question to chew on for your own work. Where is your next scene located? Seriously, think about it. And then, don't just sit there imagining it. Go find it, or at least a place like it. Go step inside and just see what you notice. You might be surprised by all the details you've been missing.